You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, light some bottles, impress them girls. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we are back with some main course now. And before I get into too much of the stuff about the Saints related, which I guess this kind of is Saints related, I didn't even want to watch the Falcons game last night. But you get bored and there's nothing else really on, and then you're like, well, I don't want the Falcons to win, but it would be nice if the Bucs lose. And it looked early on then that could be very possible. But with that game, I just the 24-hour, the 48-hour rule, even with a loss, definitely with a loss, would be something to get more over, to get over it quickly, more quickly, and kind of ease the sting. But man, that really pissed me off and got my blood boiling when Young Hoku missed 3 field goals in that game. They still won. They still won in overtime. So I guess that's good that the Bucs lost. But man, could he have not saved one of those misses? Or I guess 2 of them were misses and one was a block. But they were like from 46, 41 yards. The 46 and 41 yards were the 2 early on ones that he just straight up missed. And he got an opportunity to kick it a second time, had 2 misses back to back in that game. And then I think he had like a 42, no, not a 42, but a 52 or a 54 yarder blocked. Well, where was that choke? Where was that choke game when the Saints could have used it? But he ended up being clutch in the end of the game and being able to kick. That was like a 50-something yarder at the end, I think. It was either like a 50-yarder or something like that. They were real clutch when they got down there and were able to spike the ball and then kick the tying field goal. But man, like the Falcons, just watching them, they're like they're very similar to the Saints with how they have some good skills positions and they're similar to the Saints, other than the fact that they seem to be more clutch and are lucky. The Saints are not clutch and are not lucky at all. I would say really the only 2 differences really between these 2 teams is I kind of look at Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins very similar, which Kirk Cousins, I guess his Achilles injury isn't bothering him now after throwing for 500 yards. But really, I mean, I just look at the Falcons and think, well, yeah, they probably have a better offensive line overall, and it's healthier as well. And then I would say the Saints have a better defense, even though they've let the Saints down in the past 2 games. But more on the Falcons, this was something you'd hear kind of back in 2006 and after 2005, the Hurricane Katrina. You were hearing a lot of people saying in 2006 and then in 2009 that the NFL was just giving it to them, giving them a Super Bowl, to try to bring New Orleans back. Well, I think I want to use that same garbage statement for the Falcons. Georgia, the Hurricane Helene. So with these razor thin wins that the Falcons have had this year, they've had 3 of them where they've had like 14% chance, like towards the end of the game, to even win, 14% or less chance to win those 3 games that they won against the Eagles, Saints, and Buccaneers. So I think the NFL, it's just rigged and scripted, and they're just giving it to them because of the tragedies that they had from Helene. And I know that's maybe a little too soon, but they use that a lot, and you still sometimes hear hear that in regards to talking about the Saints Super Bowl. People still will mention like, oh, the NFL just gave it to them to try to get New Orleans back on its feet. But that's not the only thing that irritates me about that game last night. So they did Matt Ryan's like Hall of Fame, like Falcons Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which they did the same thing with Drew Brees and let Drew Brees down and lost to the Falcons of all teams. But no, the Falcons they were able to pull out an amazing win during Matt Ryan's induction service. But it's not just that. It's not just that. So during the broadcast of the Falcons Bucks game at the halftime, they actually showed some of his induction speech. You know, like what does the NFL just hate the Saints and Drew Brees because they didn't show none of Drew Brees's during their halftime during that game against the Falcons and the Saints. So I think the NFL definitely likes the Atlanta Falcons more than they do the Saints. But anyway, so let's move on from that. So that's enough Falcons talk. So let's get into some more Saints news, and there has been a lot of it over the past 2 days. But let's get into some more strictly related to Saints stuff. So, anyways, can I get a menu? And so the first thing is we're hearing about like Devante Adams trades, you know, which we've been kind of hearing rumblings about that after who Devante Adams and Max Crosby both like set out of a game, and even I think even after a game that both of them played in, Antonio Pierce was saying something about some of these players or making business decisions, which that doesn't even really make sense with Max Crosby and Devante Adams because they already got their money. So what kind of business decision are they trying to make? But I guess he said that, and I guess Devante Adams didn't like that, and I guess he sees that they probably aren't on any type of fast track to making the playoffs. So I guess he's demanded a trade, and I guess the Raiders will abide by that or are going to allow him to do that. But you know, the only other team besides kind of the Saints that I would think would be involved in this would be the New York Jets, just because he played with Aaron Rodgers. That's really about it. And I think their current offensive coordinator, who is his name escapes me at the moment. I think he was also in Green Bay for a little while as well. But that's about it. But I think the Saints have more of a connection and a relationship with Devante Adams to where I would think he would want to come here. Because I mean, Keith Williams is a wide receiver coach here in New Orleans, and he's like a serious like mentor of Devante Adams when he was like younger, you know. And so he's here now, and they're close connected, like it's almost like a second father to Devante Adams. So I could see that. That's a clear reason right there. And then the former GM of the Raiders, Dave Ziegler, he was the GM when they made the trade for Devante Adams. So there's just all these connections and puzzle pieces just kind of falling into place. And then obviously you have Derek Carr, who was the whole reason Devante Adams wanted to get traded to the Raiders to begin with. And then I don't know, their whole season got blown up, even though he had a great numbers with Derek Carr. He had like 100 catches and like 1,500 yards and like 8 touchdowns. So the connection between Derek Carr and Devante Adams during their one season back together were good, but I don't know. The Raiders were just over Derek Carr, but that kind of like ruined like the whole point of Devante Adams getting traded to the Raiders to begin with. So I could see maybe where he wants to get connected again with his old college quarterback and roommate, Fresno State. And hell, Jake Haener is some Fresno State alum as well. So I could definitely see Devante Adams getting traded to the Saints. And then when Derek Carr gets traded or cut again, then I mean Jake Haener will be his quarterback. I mean he played at Fresno too, so I could see all that happening. But just hearing some of these other teams crying and wanting Devante Adams, like the one that drives me the craziest is KC, who we are going to play on Monday. And it seems like a lot of these people and fans they don't know football. They don't know ball. Like there's no way the Raiders are going to trade Devante Adams to a division opponent, division rival in Kansas City. Like the only way they do it is if they could get like a first round pick or maybe Patrick Mahomes. That's about the only way that's going to happen. So it just kills me when I see people constantly saying KC's the spot. Like no, no. And then kind of the last little nugget here as to this is like the most recent kind of rumblings that could maybe lead to it. But I think this is kind of just shuffling the roster a little bit. But still, it's still an interesting connection that kind of comes back to Devante Adams. And that was something that was a surprise to me. But A.T. Perry was actually waived. He was waived today. So that seems odd. So you don't have a lot of depth at wide receiver really to begin with after Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and then you just waive him. But so it seems like you're kind of like almost opening a spot, even though opening a spot at wide receiver on the team, or just opening a roster spot in general. But it's not just that; it's also that A.T. Perry wears 17. He wears number 17, which is the same jersey and number that Devante Adams has like always worn. So that is just so many connections. It's just hard to not to connect the dots and think like, why would he go anywhere else? But you see the mainstream media and the reporters and stuff letting out reports that that his main destination he wants to go to is the New York Jets, which that's fine, I guess. That's fine. I honestly wouldn't want Devante Adams anyways if they planning on giving up more than like a third round pick. Like that's about it. Like I really wouldn't want to give up any players really. And no way. I've seen that they said that they want a second rounder. Like that would annoy me honestly, because you're just getting kind of like at the moment kind of like a healthy Michael Thomas, I guess, because Devante Adams is kind of a diva and he's like the same age as Michael Thomas. So it could just be like one injury and then it's pretty much done because he's 31, 32 years old. So I'm definitely not a fan of giving up too much draft capital or having to eat too much of his contract to take on even more of a cap hit. But that's enough of Devante Adams. I think we'll probably end up seeing his destination here in the coming weeks, maybe just in the next week or so. But he couldn't have played this weekend anyways because I guess his hamstring is supposedly a real injury. So I mentioned how moving A.T. Perry that kind of opened a current roster spot, and this is a surprising name that I see that they ended up poaching guard / center Connor McGovern. They poached him from the Jets, the New York Jets practice squad, which I was surprised. I've heard that name, and it was definitely really familiar to me. But I guess he's not the better Connor McGovern. I was so surprised to find out and try to figure it out and work it out that there's actually two offensive linemen with the name Connor McGovern, which that's wild to me. That doesn't seem like an overly popular name or common name. But yeah, at first I didn't even believe it. I was like, how the heck did they get 26-year-old Connor McGovern, who was started like every year that he was with the Broncos, and now he started like every game since he's the last 2 years that he's been with the Buffalo Bills. He started like all 17 games last year, and then he started all 4 this year. And he was drafted in the 3rd round, and he's only 26 years old. And I was like, there's no way that it's that Connor McGovern, and it's not. It's not that Connor McGovern. It's the New York Jets Connor McGovern, not the Buffalo Bills Connor McGovern. And he's 31 years old. He'll be 32 next April, and he was drafted in the 5th round, not the 3rd round. Like that Connor McGovern was drafted in like 2019. The other Connor McGovern was drafted in like 2019 or 2020 in the 3rd round. So that took me a second to understand which Connor McGovern the Saints got. But man, I think this, even with it being this Connor McGovern, he's that's a poaching, definitely a good addition to the Saints offensive line. I was surprised that there was even that quality of player out on someone's offensive line, because he's played 102 games and has started 91 of them. So if he can be healthy, that's the thing, he kind of only played in 7 games last year, maybe due to injury, but someone must have supplanted him in the Jets preseason. But still, that's a definitely a notable name. Both of them are notable. Both two notable Connor McGoverns. So uh, I think the Saints are already dealing with more offensive line injuries, and I think it's center again. So you're losing you're losing Eric McCoy, Shane Lemieux, and Lucas Patrick. So now we're on to, I guess, Connor McGovern, our fourth center now. I think just a nuclear bomb or something, or a warhead or something went off in the center room. I don't know, but yeah. So that was an interesting report and thing to try to figure out and work out in my head. I thought the Saints had scored a real big addition and adding a 26-year-old guard that started like every single game that he's played in during his career. That was a third-round pick. I was like, there's no way that's right, but it wasn't. So that took a little figuring out. I think Wikipedia is even messed up to where it's got both Connor McGovern on there, the one born in '96 and the one born in '93, and it says on both of them that they're with the New Orleans Saints now, which is not right. So let's move on from that. So that's all. Definitely a bunch of news there with Devante Adams, A.T. Perry, the addition of Connor McGregor. So let's move on to the injury report now. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here doing this podcast for the injury report on Friday, when I assume, because the Saints play on Monday, there'll be another one on Saturday. So this isn't the final injury report, but this will probably be the last podcast before the Saints play the Chiefs on Monday. So this injury report, it could change a little bit, but I doubt it improves much from what we're seeing here with like 20 something players on it. But let's just get into it, because this is painful. So first person on the list, we have linebacker Willie Gay. So he had hand surgery after his first couple defensive series as finally the starter for the Saints, getting his opportunity for Demario Davis. He broke his wrist or his hand, so he didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday. And I would just assume that he's probably going to be out, even if they practice again, depending, and no matter what they do on Saturday. I'd be surprised if he comes back and is limited and full and then plays. And then you have tight end Taysom Hill dealing with broken ribs now, and he didn't practice Thursday or Friday, and I imagine he probably won't be playing either. Even though that's not the final injury report, it could improve, but it could also get worse as well, that's what happened with Lucas Patrick being added to this one. Like, he practiced yesterday, wasn't on the injury report yesterday, and then is on it today with a groin injury. And then we have guard Cesar Ruiz still dealing with the knee injury, didn't practice Thursday and Friday, and I would assume that he is probably going to be out. And then we have center guard Shane Lemieux, ankle, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday, and I would assume he was out, that's really disappointing when you're having to shuffle centers around from Lucas Patrick to Shane Lemieux, and I thought he played pretty well against the Falcons. I thought he played better than Lucas Patrick played against the Eagles when he had to come in and be their center. And then we have defensive end Peyton Turner, who was my defensive MVP from the Falcons game, because he had a strip sack and had a couple tackles, a quarterback hit, and a tackle for a loss. But yeah, so that's pretty on par and on brand for Peyton Turner to have like one good season per year and then be on IR and done for the season. So that shouldn't really surprise anyone. It took a little longer. It took into the fourth game of the season instead of like week 1 or week 2 where his toe gets broken and he is out for the season. So we'll see how that develops. That's pointing that anytime you see any type of potential or growth in Peyton Turner, like right after he lands on the injury report. But he's got dealing with a knee, didn't practice Thursday and Friday, and then I would imagine that he's not going to play. And then we got kicker Blake Groupie, which was a little bit of a surprise seeing him on the injury report, and had me a little concerned. I would have been concerned about that, but they do have a potentially good backup for him and Charlie Smith, so that wouldn't have been the end of the world, I guess. But he must have just been dealing with a hip bruise or something like that, and because he didn't practice Thursday, which scared me a little bit, but then was full on Friday, so he should be fine, I would assume. And then we're got linebacker Demario Davis. It looks like he's possibly set to return, dealing with a hamstring. Was limited Thursday and limited Friday, and then I guess we'll have to see uh, where he's at on Saturday. And then we have tackle Talisi Fuaga, who's been dealing with back tightness, but I guess he's got a bit of some knee soreness as well. Was limited Thursday and was limited Friday. So I guess we'll just have to see where he is. He's pretty tough. Was game time decision. Uh, what was that? That was against Dallas. And then we got a running back, Alvin Kamara, who's dealing with the hips and the ribs as well. And he played through fractured ribs, broken ribs, I guess, against the Falcons and still put up 100 yards from scrimmage and like a touchdown. But he was limited Thursday and Friday, and on another play, I guess we'll just kind of have to see where he is, even though the Saints don't have too many other options at running back, even though hopefully it looks like Kendra Miller is on a fast track to return. That would be nice to get him back, and it would be a boost to just the offense in general because Taysom Hill is doesn't look like he's going to play, and man, the Saints just look stagnant, losing a weapon of Taysom Hill's caliber. So any little bit would help. And then we have tight end Juwan Johnson dealing with some forearm injury, was limited Thursday, but then was full on Friday. So I would expect him to play. And then we have defensive tackle Brian Bresee, ankle, was limited Thursday and Friday. And then I guess another player, I guess, will be questionable. We'll have to just see where they're at on on Saturday. So to see if they have like any type of setbacks. And then we have running back Kendra Miller, who we were just talking about, finally returned from I guess is IR, not season temporary IR or PUP, whatever the status is of that had forced him to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. Was dealing with a hamstring during that period of time and was limited Thursday and then was full on Friday. So as long as he doesn't have any setbacks and doesn't have a hangnail coming into to Monday against the Kansas City Chiefs, I would say there's a decent chance that we'll get to see Kendra Miller. So that would be nice. And then we had a wide receiver, Chris Olave, we were a little concerned of whether he was going to play against the Falcons with his hamstring. But he ended up being a game time decision and playing and having a pretty good game against the Falcons. But he's been full Thursday and Friday, so I imagine that means he's going to play. And then we have wide receiver Cedric Wilson Jr. dealing with the ankle. He was full Thursday and Friday, and then I would assume, as long as there's no setbacks, I assume he's going to play. And then the one that was just the late kind of addition here, and might give people a little bit more of an understanding of the subtraction of A.T. Perry and the addition of Connor McGovern as offensive lineman Lucas Patrick. So your left guard, as he was fine. He wasn't on the injury report on Thursday, but then popped up on it on Friday with a groin injury. So man, it's just at times when the Saints offensive line has played and has been like kind of fully healthy, they've looked pretty good. But I didn't predict that the Saints offensive line was going to be bad due to all the injuries they're dealing with. I just thought it was just a talent reason, but now it's just that they just can't stay healthy, and they put together some nice games. I thought they looked great in the first two games of the season, and then they were good enough for them to win against the Falcons, but then you just constantly got guys just dropping like flies in the offensive line room. But that's the injury report for Friday. I guess there'll be another one on Saturday. Let's just hope that there's, it could be a lot worse, I guess, but let's just hope most of those guys that were limited on Friday, hopefully all those guys are able to play and maybe get lucky and maybe one of these guys that didn't practice all week, maybe they'll magically heal and we might get them back. But uh, it's hard to say. It could get worse when there's what, like 15 players on the list. Yeah, 15 players. That's crazy. All right, so now let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs uh, injury report, which only has 6 players on it, and only looks like one uh, is on maybe on track to not play. So we have defensive end Mike Dana dealing with a calf injury, was limited on Thursday and limited on Friday. I would guess that he's going to play. And then you got running back Clyde Hilaire, illness, limited on Thursday, limited on Friday. He's probably going to play. I actually wouldn't mind getting to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I think was dealing with some personal issues, which has kind of kept him out of football the last couple of years. But he's finally back. Sad that he's dealing with a bit of an injury right now, but wouldn't mind seeing the LSU, the Tigers alum, play. Just don't want him to have a great day against New Orleans. Maybe have like one good play that doesn't win in the game. And then you got running back Kareem Hunt, shoulder, limited Thursday and limited Friday. And like I said, he probably end up playing. And then you got wide receiver Mecole Hardman, knee, limited Thursday, and then didn't practice Friday. But still, with the Saints' luck and how you compare and contrast other injury reports, he'll probably be limited or full on Saturday. And of course, he'll play. And then you have linebacker Nick Bolton, hamstring, was full Thursday and Friday, and of course I'm sure he'll play. And then you got defensive tackle Derek Nottie, tricep, full Thursday and Friday, and that's I'm sure he'll play as well. He should play. And that's the Chiefs injury report, man. We flew through that real quick. They ain't dealing with too much, but I say that they're not dealing with too much, but they are. They have some offensive injuries that they're dealing with. They're just not showing up on the injury report because they're on like PUP and temporary IR because they're missing Hollywood Brown like all season as a wide receiver for them. Isaiah Pacheco, their starting running back, he's had a broken leg, so they won't have him. And then they lost their starting wide receiver, their number one receiver, in Rasheen Rice to an ACL injury. So you can't say that they're not dealing with injuries and mostly skills position players are what they're dealing with all their injuries. And with the Saints, it's a lot of offensive line, but they're definitely dealing with some issues with injuries too. You're just not showing up on the injury report. But Derek Carr, he's not, or not Derek Carr, but Patrick Mahomes hadn't been having like a real great season, and Travis Kelce looks like he's a step slower, a bit washed because he hasn't been real great, and I don't think he even has a touchdown yet. So moving on to MVPs and whatnot. I'm this is I feel as if like the last 4 games when I pick an MVP, I ends up jinxing them. They either just have a complete dud of a game or make a complete boneheaded play in the game, or they just end up getting hurt like in the first half. So I feel it's almost risky with who I'm picking, but I almost look at this as kind of like a Derek Carr revenge game. Even though I know he didn't play in Kansas City, but that was like the Raiders' like biggest rivalry when he was with the Chiefs. When he was with the Raiders, even though I think he only like beat them like maybe twice whenever he played Kansas City. I know I think it was 2021 they beat them like at the end of the season, and that was a big deal when they still had John Gruden and maybe still had like Henry Ruggs and stuff. But that may have been actually now I think about that may have been after John Gruden got fired and they brought in the interim special teams coach to be the head coach, and then Obviously, Henry Ruggs had the terrible car wreck, but just because even though Derek Carr didn't win too many of those matches against Kansas City, he had some of his best games against them. You could probably say he probably had some of his worst games against them as well. But I think I'm going with Derek Carr to have a kind of a get back game, to still be like I'm still somebody you got to worry about, Chiefs. Like you don't forget me as as a as kind of a vengeance, uh, for revenge, or a bad guy, I guess, for them. So I think I'm going to go with MVP, just going a single offensive player. I think I'm just going to go with Derek Carr to have a decent game, which he hasn't really had like a bad game. Had maybe some like untimely interception, but I think he's going to have a good game. And then for hot takes, uh, I kind of like the MVPs, like all of my hot takes that have been like uh, offensive line based have all almost come true, and been led to like the offensive line playing like respectable, decent. So I think it makes me want to do like another offensive line hot take, but man, you gotta go to you gotta have a little bit of variation. So on this hot take, I think I'm going to go with I think Patrick Mahomes is not going to throw a touchdown in this game. He may have like one like rushing or something, but he's not going to throw a touchdown to Travis Kelce or any of his other wide receivers, Juju Smith-Schuster. And that shouldn't be like considered like a ridiculous hot take, just because I would say Patrick Mahomes hasn't been like amazing or like elite this year so far, even though they're still found a way to be 4-0. And then like his favorite target, over his career has been Travis Kelce, who looks like he's lost a step and doesn't have a touchdown on the season yet. So I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes not having a receiving touchdown in this game. But just like I said, I mean, the Saints have only allowed 4 all year anyways. I'm talking total touchdowns, not just receiving touchdowns. That's rushing as well. And then on to my picks, seeing some of these players coming back, like possibly Demario Davis coming back, and Kendra Miller coming back, but then you're losing some other guys. But still, some of that has build and voided some like confidence in me. Also, with the fact that the Chiefs just really haven't looked amazing this year, and I would say almost, I'm not one to say like, oh, the refs are the reason they're winning, or the Kansas City Chiefs, their check must have cleared, so the refs, the only reason they're winning is because the 12th men on the field, the referees. But I just think they hadn't looked overly amazing. It's not like they're blowing people out or anything. And you got Patrick Mahomes throwing for like 300 yards and like 5 touchdowns in games or anything like that. So I think the Saints, who, if you saw what the Falcons did to the Buccaneers last night, which shows you that the Saints defense is obviously pretty good. If they were able to hold the Falcons, who scored 36 points last night, were able to hold the Falcons to what, 16 points? Yeah, I think, yeah, just 16. No, yeah, 26 points with no touchdowns. So I think the Saints could do it. So I think I'm going to go with the Saints in this game, and I'm picking them to win this 20-17. And I think this game is going to be just another nail biter like the last 2 weeks. And I think the Chiefs will have the lead for most of the game. Like it'll be 14, possibly 14-0, or 14-7 for a good portion of the game. And then the Saints will finally kind of get something going in the second half and be able to get up 20-17. And this may be another crazy part. You could even add this in to a hot take, and just kind of going off the last Sunday against the Falcons, and maybe even kind of last night, the Falcons Buccaneers game. And this I say you could probably make this a hot take because Harrison Butker like never misses. He's kind of like Young Wei Koo. He's probably up there with the top best kickers. Pro Bowl kicker. But that's what I have happening. The Saints are going to win 20-17, and it's going to come at the gun on a missed Harrison Butker field goal. So that's what I got. It's kind of nice that the Saints play on Monday, so at least I was kind of able to enjoy last night's game, even though I didn't want the Falcons or the Bucks to win. I just wanted the Bucks to lose. But then because I can enjoy it, but then because the Saints don't play on Sunday, I can enjoy all the Sunday games and be relaxed and just take it easy before I have to stress out and worry about the Saints possibly going what 2-3 and still. But luckily the Falcons won and the Buccaneers lost. So even so, they'd still just be a game behind them. But anyways, I think that's about all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?